Hi, I'm Katherin Vesilopoulos. Success can be hard to define for all of us. As we mature, we gain experiences that shift our perspective on what it means to lead a successful personal and professional life. For Dom Farnan, those experiences first came from working in HR. Workplace toxicity and inflexibility kept leading her to question her place in the corporate environment. And so, she left. From the outside, Dom seems like she's had things figured out since she graduated from high school at 17. She's the founder and CEO of DotConnect, an 8-figure talent advisory firm that's worked with TikTok, Snapchat, the NFL, and other heavy-hitting clients. But the issues she faced in corporate didn't fully go away. In fact, Dom's internal life has been a roller coaster. She's faced severe burnout more than once, struggling, especially during the pandemic. Over the course of her journey, she's had to reevaluate everything she knows about workplace culture. Now she's launching DoseConnect, a new talent company that uses psychedelic therapeutics to scale businesses through conscious connection. Hey, Dom. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Tell us a bit about, how you got started.
So I have a unique story in that I started recruiting at 17. I graduated high school early, and it was a job that I took kind of by chance because I didn't want to work at a pizza place anymore. I wanted a corporate job. Got hired by a friend of mine that was a neighbor, started as an intern, worked my way into recruiting, and it's all I've ever known since then. So for over 20 years, I've been focused on that. And for the last 3-4 years, I've been building what is my company, DotConnect, and I also have another company called
Right.
DoseConnect.
And DotConnect was named after...
Yeah, DotConnect is named after my grandma, Dorothy. My grandmother was my best friend and biggest cheerleader and supporter. And when I was thinking of starting my own consultancy, I didn't know what to call it. And it came to me that we used to call her Dottie, and her middle name was Constance. And so I was like, DotConnect, Dottie, DotConnect. Okay, that makes sense. And then it ended up aligning well with what we did. It all just felt like this was destined to happen. This was destined to be what I was going to do in my life. If I really go back far, far before I even knew anything about recruiting, when I was a kid, and just really feeling so close to my grandmother. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Do you ever think back to who you were when you first started, and then how many different versions of you happened until you got to this point today? Because when you started, you probably had an idea of what a leadership role was and what does it mean to be a leader. And then when you get into it, you start to realize, oh, this is the reality.
Yeah, I think when I started, I had always been somebody on teams that was very senior, a good mentor, someone that a team could rely on, always did high quality work, super high performing, took a lot of ownership and pride in my work. And as a leader, there's some elements that you can take from that, but it's really this internal journey that you have to enroll yourself in. And it's not just about you. It's really about the people that you serve on your team, your clients. And so if you kind of look at it as a pyramid, even though I was a CEO at the top of the pyramid in the org chart, you have to flip it on its head. And really, I'm at the bottom in service to everybody that works with me, that engages with me on my team, to my clients, to my family. And so that was a big shift for me. Initially, I was leading from a place of ego, big time, because I felt like a big, cool boss now that I had a company that I decided to, invest in and put all my hard-earned everything into.
Right.
And it's quite humbling, even now where we're at. Like we started our business in 2019, and then 2020 COVID hit. We were on a big growth streak, and then it just stopped. And then we had a really challenging year, had a really challenging client that I had to work with to keep us going, that I felt for so long like, I don't even know if I can do this, but I did it. And then 2021 hit and we grew, and 2022 hit and we grew more, and we were over 100 people. And it was so fun and wild and crazy. And now we're in 2023 and it's like, this is interesting, quiet, not a lot of hiring going on. But I can't help but think like how much growth I've had personally during that time, because I'm not leading from a place of ego anymore. I'm leading from a place of being grounded and heart and humility and being of service and continuing to be like a go-giver and just showing up and adding value where I can and not expecting anything in return, but understanding the law of energetics and what you put out there and what you're calling back in. So definitely been an evolution.
That's a cool term, a go-giver.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, there's a really good book.
What a difference from a go-getter, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a lot of people who are go-givers. That's what we found out.
The corporate environment, there's some toxicity in it. And I think different people experience that at some time or another. What did that mean for you? Like, what kind of examples come to mind?
I think I'm still in my PTSD from working in corporate for 20 years and also from it being the only thing I ever knew. Like I was a kid, I grew up in corporate, my formative years of my late teens and early 20s, me as a woman, especially in corporate, the things that I saw, heard, had to put up with or, sweep under the rug for a long time because you didn't know. It's not like I had a lot of other female leader mentors that were really guiding me. I always worked in super male dominated industries. My first job was at a building products company. I think, we had the recruiting team definitely had women, but the rest of the company didn't. I didn't know that it was bad until I got a little bit of space away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
were you trying to meet some expectations or something that you were trying to be something that you didn't want to be or shouldn't be?
Yeah, or like conditioned. I call it corporate conditioning. Like I had to show up a certain way and fit into this mold and have the corporate consult speak and, have people editing my emails so that they read the right way. And you don't really realize like all that crazy until you're a little bit out of it and you're like, whoa, I don't actually have to do that. And so it's been beautiful being able to build my own thing because now I can make the rules. Like all the corporate rules are fake, number one. And number two, I can make whatever rules I want. So, I don't have to subscribe to like how things were just because that's how they've always been. Now we're in a place of running very lean and trying to meet the market where they are and still be of service to companies that do need to hire, but showing up very differently. And there's not a lot of other places like us that are doing that. Most corporate recruiting agencies and companies are still just doing the same old thing, waiting for this time in history to pass. And we're not. We're showing up differently and getting creative and giving away our value and work and just being there so people will remember us when things do get busy again. They'll know about all the little crazy ideas that we had, and it's super fun.
So your approach to recruiting and to dealing with people is different, I guess, than what the traditional model has been. What can you tell me about that? What's different about it?
Drum roll, please. We care. That's it. We care about people. We care deeply. I've always led from that place. Even when I was an individual contributor, recruiter, I've always cared, and you can tell. You can tell. And it doesn't take a lot of work, but it takes intention. It makes a difference and people feel it. So I always try and talk to my team about how I want people who work with us to feel. I want it to feel different, that when you get off a call with us, you go, oh, I love that recruiter, or I love their team, or they're so fun, or they're so nice, or they bring this energy, this vibe that you can't even put into a box and you can't articulate. It's just a feeling. It's nothing special other than we care. And it's pretty shocking that there's a lot of people out there that just don't.
Yeah, well, we've been in situations where you deal with someone who is trying to place you somewhere or recruiting, and then the trail goes cold, or you don't hear back from them, or any number of other things that happen. And then you feel like there's a disconnect. That person lost the connection with me and obviously didn't care enough. There's something in that interaction that gets lost. And the fact that you're saying, well, I care, the hope is that the people who are working with you and for you are gaining value from that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a thing, follow-up Fridays. There's nobody that's ever going to be left hanging. My hope is when you're working with our teams that you're getting an update, even if the update is no update.
And I imagine that's very important to people who are going through a dry spell of not getting interviews or not getting the job that they wanted, or they were so close and then someone else got picked, and getting that constant feedback from you is a reassurance as well that, you know, we're working on it. We're going to get you something. It's been especially difficult in the last few years of people losing entire careers or jobs that they've been in for years or even decades. And a pandemic shows up and creates this incredible havoc and turns people's lives upside down financially and career-wise and personally. And I'm sure you know a lot about that because it's something that's happened to you as well.
Yeah, it was interesting. So really, my burnout started in 2018. I had 9 full-time clients. I had hundreds of jobs I was working on. I had 2 part-time people helping me, and I had reached like the max. I could not possibly recruit one more person. Finally, in 2020, when I was grounded at home in New Jersey and I couldn't travel anywhere, I had kind of had it. I had it with how I was feeling. I had been in a deep depression. We started losing clients and money rapidly. I felt very scared for my family because I'm the breadwinner. And so I probably spent a few months struggling to even get out of bed, but also trying to put the face on with clients that we did have. In March of 2020, before the world shut down, my team flew to New Jersey. We had a big team meeting. We had a big bougie dinner. We were living our best life, and we were going to do a $10 million revenue year, and we were like ready to go. Then I think it was March 14th hit. They left. The world shut down. All hell broke loose in New York and New Jersey. Everything was on lockdown. COVID was all over the news, and we started losing clients immediately. I remember there was a morning I woke up and I just didn't want to get out of bed. And I'm like super depressed, covers over my head. But I was okay. I'm okay, but I feel like crap on the inside. Outwardly, like, we're okay, we're surviving, we're getting through this, but I'm not okay. So I had to just really be honest with myself that I had reached a breaking point of the external show of what being okay was, like, because I just wasn't. And so I feel like now that I know myself better, I was probably a high functioning depressed person for a very, very long time, probably 10, 15 years even. I was so disconnected from myself, my wants, needs, whatever, that I didn't even know. I didn't even know what it was. I just kept going. Like, I thought that was my state of being.
And sometimes we need to do things to help us cope. And it can take different forms for different people. And for you, what was it?
Yeah, no, I was drinking, I was doing drugs. Like, before COVID hit, when I was traveling all the time for work, I loved that because I was on the road 95% of the time. I could drop in one weekend a month to be a mom, and then I could go back on the road, and that made me feel safe, and that was like my happy place. But it's no wonder that during that time, your relationships deteriorate, you're not super present, and it's kind of a mask, you know? It's kind of like you just keep doing these things that take the edge off of the other parts that aren't so great. You know, I almost like would romanticize that it was great to be on the road all the time and giving everybody all the time that I had in my life and spending every weekend in an airport or whatever it was. I thought that was cool. And that's what did it for me. But during COVID, it definitely was like drinking and doing drugs and just suppressing and being super, super disconnected from myself.
And it's like putting a little Band-Aid on it, but it doesn't get rid of the underlying cause. You know, you have to kind of do the heavy work internally, right? To get to that next phase. And, you know, different people do different things. There's meditation, there's yoga, they do different musical things. They try out all sorts of creative outlets and see what sticks and what works. In your case, did you try anything like that?
I decided I'd had enough. I saw a friend of mine who was working with a coach, and I was like, maybe I need a coach. Like, what's this coaching thing all about? I don't know. I'm intrigued. And so I reached out to the coach that he kept mentioning on Instagram, and I connected with her. Her name's Angie Wisdom. And immediately I knew, I'm like, yeah, she's for me. But it also was at a time where like it was an investment. I had never paid any money to anybody to help me at that level. And I was a bit nervous, but I knew that I needed something dramatic change. Like I needed something to really shake up the trajectory that I was on. Otherwise, I probably would have ended up in a really dark place. And, we had set out a program of what I wanted. And initially I was like, I just want to focus on work. We won't talk about my marriage. It's totally a mess, but let's just talk about work. And she kind of was like, yeah, let's try that.
Right. The compartmentalizing that we all think we could be doing and should be doing and can do, it ends up just falling apart because you have to take care of it holistically. There's no such thing as, oh, one thing will be great while everything else falls apart. Then there's this wheel that you're constantly turning in your life. It's going to be clunky. It's going to go ka-clunk, and it's not going to allow you to move forward. There's going to be something holding you back. And working with a coach is almost like allowing yourself to go back to school, but school for you. Like it's not school for your knowledge. It's just self-knowledge and trying to develop these other skills that maybe we weren't ready to adopt when we're younger. Or we're just starting off in the marketplace or in the job market. And instead, we have to go through all these experiences that shake us up and pull us down and allow us to come back up as another version of ourselves. But if you don't have time to digest it or even process what just happened, going with a coach, I think sometimes allows you that perspective and that retrospective.
It's all intertwined, right? Like you're all one human in one body. So it's really hard to have a home life that's a mess, but then be showing up for work like it's all great. It doesn't work like that. So you have to focus on the one being, the one human that you are, and take care of all these different facets of your energy. After I worked with Angie for about 6 or 7 months, I met another amazing coach, and I joined a community, a Leaders Create Leaders mastermind community with Gerard Adams. And in that community, I was invited to a retreat in Tulum in April of 2021. It was funny because I went to the retreat and I didn't know it was going to be a sober retreat. I thought we were going to be drinking, it was going to be nice, we're going to be on the beach. And
yes.
The invitation the first night was, we're going to go into this, weekend together, super clean vessels. We're not going to be drinking. We're going to do sunrise meditation. We're going to do breath work. We're going to do temescal, which is a sweat lodge. Like we're going to do a lot of ceremonial type of things. And I'm like, what the hell? Okay. I was open. So I'm 0% conscious. I'm at a conscious leaders retreat. I have no idea what I'm walking into. And we meet this beautiful woman, Miriam, who does a breathwork journey. And she tells us, so we're going to do holotropic breathwork, and it goes like this. And we're going to lay down and anything can come up. You could cry, you can laugh, you can move around, your body might freeze up. I'm just like, okay. And she goes, and it's kind of like taking LSD. Like you can, you might trip out and see stuff. I'm like, back up. This is also pre-plant work for me. I'm like, sounds good. Let's try this. So lo and behold, we get into this breathwork experience, a quick sip of air through your abdomen, through your upper chest, and release. And it's a circular breath. So we do this as we're laying down, and within a matter of probably 2 minutes, that's when I felt, to me, like I had died and gone to heaven. And I saw me in white pulling myself, current self, into heaven and saying, here you are, this is heaven, this is what it's like. At the same time, then I saw my grandma, who was this raven that was flying, and she kind of pulled me under her wing and started telling me that, you're going to heal the family and it's okay, and I'm here. It was just really profound. So this happened, and then I'm like crying my eyes out, and I'm just like, what the heck? Like, what is all of this? This is a whole new world of things that I'm exposed to. And the people that I met, their energy was so different. Their vibe was very high. They talked to me in different language, and they just said beautiful things. And I felt so like seen and heard and loved by people I didn't really know very well, but who knew my soul, it felt like. And I remember initially just being so judgy and being like, I don't know about this. Like, these people aren't, that genuine. And I just was immediately not going to go there because I had no exposure to anyone like that coming from corporate.
Right. How can you possibly love me this much? You don't even know me.
Yeah, it was just so transformative. And then after that, at the same retreat, I met a medicine woman friend of mine, and she invited me to try plant medicine with her in Costa Rica. And then we did our ceremonies, super, super healing and powerful for us. And we reconnected. And then we just had the best second week of this trip. And that was a catalyst in our relationship and a catalyst in my healing journey to then continue to go deeper with different modalities like breathwork, like different plant medicines. And so, 2021 was this beautiful cracking open. And then 2022 was a big exploration deeper into psychedelics and leading me towards the end of the year, then founding a company called DoseConnect that's in psychedelic therapeutics and helping those companies grow and expand because of my own experience in healing with them.
Yeah, so psychedelics have seen a huge resurgence. There's a lot more being said about them now. It's almost coming back into a fashionable discussion as opposed to they were so feared in the 50s or 60s, and now there's newfound evidence. There are new experiments. There are new ways of looking at it, and scientists actually saying what wonderful properties they have for certain people, and it does create a connection to this. There's no fear of death anymore. People who take them and come out of the experience, they say, I'm not afraid of dying anymore. And it's changing the way I'm living my life going forward. When you live your life with no fear, it just opens so many doors to doing amazing new things because there's nothing to be worried about. You can't go wrong.
I've had so many ego deaths, but I'll tell you what, they have been so beautiful. I mean, the first real, my ego death experience was through breath work, but then again in psilocybin journeys, and then again in ayahuasca, and then again in 5-MeO or bufo. Like, for somebody like me who's high anxiety generally, and high performance and driven, to have that sense of overwhelming peace in my life is a gift that you just can't even put into words. And so I think there's, a lot still to be discovered and leveraged when it comes to psychedelics. I'm a huge proponent, not for everybody, but for those who are curious. There's a lot of different resources you can leverage, and especially up in Canada where you guys are. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff happening there, and you guys are way ahead of the curve. So
yeah, it all depends on what's available and what's legal and et cetera, and what people are into. But that's a really nice experience. And in fact, I saw on your website a beautiful picture of you sitting near some beautiful, brightly lit bowls. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I just started a sound healing facilitation training that I'm doing with a friend of mine. So Avery Whitmore is a sound and breathwork healer that I work with. I met him at a retreat, and it'll be interesting for me because I'm so in my head. I'm usually so brainiac and directing and thinking and doing spreadsheets and all this boring work. And so I'm excited to get my hands on working with sound bowls and being able to practice and get into stillness. And that's one of my big intentions for the year, is to quiet my mind and be able to create more peace so that I can hear myself. I've been doing a lot of coaching, and I love that, but I also am in a season of life where I want to integrate all of the stuff that's happened over the last 3 years and all the different experiences that I've had, and let the dust settle a little bit, and then let me, leverage my own inner wisdom. Because I did jump into my healing journey the same way I jump into everything else in life, and went full-fledged into all the things. And I never say no to anything. I'm a full yes on a lot of things. And now I'm like, okay, I can dial it back. I have enough coaching probably to save my life for the rest of my life. I feel very good about this season of just kind of going a little bit more inward to see what I think and what's right for me, and what wisdom I can harvest to share with the world.
I find the journey fascinating because you went from being a teenager, starting off your first job in corporate, and going through the the steps that we all do when we're in a corporate life, and we think that we need to be a certain kind of person, and we in fact close ourselves off from the exploration of who we really are as young adults in the workforce. And then it took you a few years and a burnout and some revelations through multiple ways to get to this point right now where you're allowing yourself to explore the things and to come to your own conclusions about who you want to be as a person. And also it spills over into who you are as a boss and as a business owner. And it's such a wonderful transition because it shows this willingness to have a personal evolution and to try to get to that place of healing. I think that many young women out there today are trying to start businesses and want to be entrepreneurs and want to do everything. Everything's at their fingertips right now. We have our cell phones, we have laptops, we can be digital nomads, we can do whatever kind of life. We want to sculpt it into whatever we want and live our best life. And from your standpoint, do you ever find yourself giving advice to younger women? Because now you've been there. You've been in so many different phases.
Definitely find a coach or a community or a mentor immediately. If you're starting out in your career, that is the first thing you need to do. Don't wait 20 years like I did. Do it immediately and make the investment, because the investment, when you have somebody, a coach or a mentor, will 10x your development, 10x your revenue. Like, it will show up for you. But be discerning. Right now, there's a whole community of coaching for coaches and coaches' sake, and all the coaches in the world. You can find a coach about anything. Great. But be discerning and find somebody that you look up to that is inspiring to you, that maybe is a similar career path or trajectory and whatever it is, and find someone in your domain, I would say, for sure. But invest in coaching right out the gate. And I think that's the best thing a young person can do. And community, like if it's not a one-on-one coach, that's fine. There's group programs, and there's also, master classes and other communities that you can tap into. So I'm in Chief. I've loved being in Chief since 2019. That's a networking community for women. That's usually VP plus or founders. There's also Female Founder Collective. There's a lot of other different groups like that for women in particular. It doesn't always have to be women too. I've really enjoyed being in masterminds that are co-ed and very diverse and bringing a lot of different perspectives in to drive your own innovation. I would also say to someone starting out, you don't have to work yourself into burnout. You don't have to play to everybody's rules. Make your own rules. That's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur. There are no rules. Just scratch out all the rules and make your own and live by that book first. And really create space for you to listen to your inner guide and your intuition, your inner compass, because it is there. And I think what led me to the place of my burnout was this little voice that was like, you can't do this anymore. Like, this is enough. Like, if you don't stop, then we don't want to tell you what will happen. It was kind of like that. And it was a nagging voice. It was the same thing that led me to go to Peru to do ayahuasca. It was a pull internally that you can't even articulate. And it definitely is that little intuition and that voice. So create space for you as you're starting out your entrepreneurial journey to listen to yourself. Get some coaching, get some mentorship, get community, and have those inputs. But just because you have those inputs doesn't mean that they're always right either. They're to guide you and elevate the conversation and challenge you and make you think differently. That's where I'm at right now. This season is about me and reclaiming me, my voice, what I want, what I desire, what I'm into. And maybe it's because I'm getting closer to 40. 40 is like you're coming out as a woman and you're just like, yeah, this is what I want. I don't know. Maybe I hear that a lot. Like women who turn 40, they're just like, they have this changing in their energy. But I think that's it. Like, I'm just here to reclaim myself. And maybe it's like what you said earlier, Katherin, I was like so indoctrinated at such a young age that I didn't have that chance to like be the way that I wanted to be. I was just falling straight into how you need to be in corporate and this and that. So now I feel like I'm in this emergence of, hey world, like I'm an actual person. I do these things. This is what I like. I'm not my job and my title and whatever label you've placed on me.
I think that also Maybe we need to go through all those steps in order to become who we are in our late 30s, early 40s, and that all those experiences are valuable, whether they're considered positive or negative, and that you can't discount them, and they turn you into who you are and propel you into the next step. So anyone who's going through difficulties in their late teens, 20s, 30s, trying to develop this perfect career that we've always wanted in our heads, and they come with a whole bunch of little what do you want to call them? Monsters. They show up when you don't want them, and they make you change direction or feel bad or come to realizations that maybe this is not the right path and I need to switch. How many people who are wonderful entrepreneurs and so successful have had to make multiple changes in direction and industries, and it's okay. Those are fine, and they build and build and build until you can get to that point.
I love what you're saying, and I think that that's a good point. Everything is already perfect, and everything that happens in your life is already written. So it's all part of the story, good, bad, or ugly. And I tied it together yesterday because I kept thinking back to, it's 3 years almost to the day that I was in a similar situation in my company where we lost clients and lost money and all this stuff. I had that really challenging client that I had to work with for that year to survive. And yesterday I had a conversation with someone where they want me to do almost the same type of work, but in a very different way. And the people are so amazing at this new venture studio. It's like a breath of fresh air. If I didn't have that one really hard experience with that client for that year or a couple of years, I wouldn't be equipped to do this new potential opportunity with this new studio. That's exactly like I needed that experience to do this next thing. I had to have gone through that. And that's like the beautiful silver lining and the lesson that I always knew. I always knew, like, hey, when I'm in this really hard chapter of my life and it feels heavy and it feels like a lot, something's going to come of this, because it felt like an initiation. It felt like, all right, universe, you're really giving it to me. Like, I got to get in here and learn some stuff because something is going to come back. I don't know what. And I know that I'll get it back. And so yesterday I had this beautiful conversation and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is the gold that came from that mega challenge, because had I not gone through that, I couldn't have been in this conversation with this person today.
So many times we're in a situation that's difficult and we don't stop to ask, what's the lesson here? It's only after you have to look back and say, there was a lesson there. I just have to know what it is. And I don't know how many times I've screamed out in the void, like, what am I supposed to be learning here? What is this? And it only comes after. Sometimes you have to go through the motions. You have to go through the experience. And it becomes another tool in your arsenal. And you can refer back to it like later. And in your case, that's exactly what happened. You had that moment of, I experienced something difficult, but now on take two, I'm able to actually go and deal with it in a more structured way, in a way that makes sense to me. And I'm equipped now. I'm not just doing a dry run and like, okay, it's the Wild West. I have no clue what's happening. Sometimes you need that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the best part of this whole inner work journey, is being able to have awareness now and not be in my victim consciousness of life happening to me or why me or any of that, but thinking from a different perspective about all the things that happen for me, or even now a more evolved place, like, what am I creating? Because the conversation, for example, that I had yesterday is completely something that I manifested and created, and it happened. And now that I think back to it, I'm just like, damn, that's some powerful stuff, because I made this happen. And you have to kind of get to that place where life is happening, by you. Like, you are the creator.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into victimization mode. It's very easy to say, why me? Why is this happening to me? Instead of saying, okay, let me just approach this in a different way and evaluate, okay, it is happening to me. Now, how do I move forward? What am I learning from this? And where can I take this? There's always an opportunity somewhere. And with every disaster, there's an opportunity. And not that I'm saying that all the things that happen are disasters, but I'm saying that there is the silver lining way of looking at things is that you need to look for that opportunity always. Something, there'll be an outlet or an exit from that situation and will bring you to another step. I truly believe that.
Well, this is a good segue. The person I talked to yesterday, he lives in Dana Point. I live now in Laguna Beach. So almost 2 years ago, we lost our house to a hurricane in 2021. And we ended up in New Jersey. We ended up having to move back to California in Laguna Beach, somewhere I never thought I'd live and somewhere I never really wanted to come back to. I grew up in California. We moved to Jersey. We had a beautiful house. We never wanted to come back. So we end up here, and I couldn't help but think yesterday, like, and another step further, of course, I have this beautiful conversation with this venture studio CEO who lives in Dana Point, 5 minutes away from where I live. 3 years later, after I go through hell and back with this really challenging client, and we're talking about this experience, and I'm just like, I started laughing. I'm like, this is the cosmic joke, because I kept also wondering, like, why did I end up back here of all places? It's Laguna Beach is tiny, it's random, there's no venture people here, there's not a lot of industry happening, like, and then I'm like, because this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is it. That I had to lose my house in a hurricane to end up randomly in Laguna Beach to meet this guy Mark a couple of years later running this venture. Like, all of these synchronicities. Yeah, it's just really beautiful divine timing.
I love it. And it's when you're really aware of it, you're like, oh, it's meant to be. Oh, it was written for me already, or all those things. That's when you start to really believe into whatever's clicking. Click, click, click. All those pieces come together, and it forms the next version of the snowball. Yeah. Actually, there's no snow in California, but you know what I mean.
Well, recently there was, like...
Actually, that's true. Yeah. Many thanks to Dom Farnan. Her new book, Now Here, A Journey from Toxic Boss to Conscious Connector, is available for pre-order and releases on March 28th. And So She Left is made by Cansulta and Ethan Lee. We'll be back next Wednesday with a new episode. Music by Chris Zabriskie, edited for your enjoyment. You can find a list of all the songs you heard here in the episode notes. I'm Katherin Vasilopoulos, and thanks for listening.